Intel's B860 chipset, the new, more affordable LGA 1851 chipset, is launched with the beginning of 2025. And this is weird because there hasn't been a lot of coverage of these, but Intel also has an update to their microcode and their BIOS, and it's like, well, it's Save Intel, it's like gaming champion. No. But I've got a Core Ultra 9 285K. It's okay, it holds its own in gaming, but it absolutely shreds in everything else. And you know, Intel promised like 52% single thread Cinebench 23. We'll take a look at that while taking a look at this motherboard. We're going to put a little build together, a little test bench build, but a build nonetheless, because I think these chipsets make a lot more sense because you're not really doing extreme overclocking. I think extreme overclocking and the highest end features like onboard 10 gigabit are what you need if you need a higher end chipset. I think the B860 motherboards make a lot more sense. And we're going to start with the MSI Tomahawk, the Mag Tomahawk. Let's dive in. If you're not familiar with MSI boards, I've covered the Ace and a couple other higher end boards from MSI. You should check those out. If you're doing a really high end build, then those boards are worth considering. Historically, the Tomahawk has been where MSI tries to put their best foot forward. The first recent legendary board in the Tomahawk family was the B450 Tomahawk. It was an incredible value. And this motherboard looks to me like it's an incredible value for the Intel platform. Mostly because it has 5 gigabit Ethernet built in, but also it has some other quality of life things that are nice, like an X4 expansion slot that's X16 physical that you could use a capture card all the way at the bottom of the board, so it's right out of the way. It's nice. What do you get in the box? The board. It's got a built-in I/O shield, which is nice. It has reasonable M.2 heat sinks, but look, toolless heatsink release. And yeah, it's not all the M.2, but hey, you know there's higher end boards from competing vendors that don't have that. Yeah. It also has your VGA X16 release button. So if you swap your GPU a lot, you can hit the button to help you release it. Otherwise, it's a pretty awesome little board. I mean, look at the layout here. A dual 8-pin power plus a 4-pin fan header at the top edge of the board. Tucked away 4-pin fan header here, which could work if you're going to use an M.2 header with a fan, or you know, sometimes you get one of those fancy Gen 5. And this is Gen 5 M.2. We'll go over the PCIe slot layout in just a second. Get the 20-pin 5 gigabit front panel plus Type-C plus standard 24-pin. You got your A RGB and your 50/50 header here. You got more 4-pin fan headers. You have a total of 3 at the top corner of the board. 4 SATA 6 gigabit per second. Then you got 2 more M.2 under this MSI Arsenal Gaming heatsink, your X4 expansion slot, which I mentioned. Supplemental power input on the bottom edge of the board. If you're going to use a graphics card in this bottom slot, it's basically going to be blocked, so I don't know that I would really recommend that. At the bottom edge of the motherboard, you've got 2 more USB 2.0 headers. You got 2 RGB headers, a 4-pin fan header, your front panel connector, another 4-pin fan header at the front edge here, and a lot of other connectivity. There is a PCI Express by 1 slot just above your 4 slot, so if you have like a sound card you wanted to add, you can do that. For diagnostics, this motherboard has Easy LED, which are basically 4 LEDs that tell you which thing is broken if it doesn't power on. Is the CPU not working? Is it detecting memory? Is some other problem there? Is it okay? But you don't see anything in your output, but the BIOS thinks everything is okay. That will be indicated by these 4 LEDs. And so it's very useful for diagnostic purposes, even though it doesn't have something as elaborate as like a code readout LED array or something like that. At the rear, it has Thunderbolt HDMI and DisplayPort, 1 USB 2.0 for BIOS flashback, then 3 more USB 2.0, 2 USB 10 gig on the bottom underneath the 5 gig LAN port, 2 more USB Type A 10 gig above that, and then a USB Type C 10 gig, which is not Thunderbolt. You got analog audio out and analog audio in, optical SPDIF out, and then you've got your Wi-Fi 7 antennas. There's also a BIOS flashback button and a clear CMOS button, which are very close together and very easy to hit accidentally if you're faffing around with the Thunderbolt port. Other accessories in the box, not much really. You got a really nice Wi-Fi antenna. This is good. This is the movable one. It's not the cheap rubber duck, so you can mount it somewhere and get some pretty good signal. There's a quick installation guide you can scan with a QR code, some European regulatory notices. You can win prizes from MSI if you take your build and photograph it and post it on social media. If you do have an MSI build, post it on the Level 1 forums. I'd love to see it. Then we've got our breakout/extension headers for USB 2, RGB. We get the little micro RGB connector that this can break out into. And then you got a single 6 gigabit SATA cable. So if you're gonna have a hard drive, a mechanical hard drive, there you go. And I think that's reasonable because nobody's using SATA anymore except for those gargantuan 20 terabyte hard drives. Now, if you are doing a build with one of these boards, you are going to want to update your BIOS because these CPUs did not perform nearly as well as they should have on launch. And these boards are newer than other LGA 1851 boards, so they have a somewhat updated BIOS, but Intel still had more updates that improved performance even after these launched at the beginning of January 2025. So I've got my Core Ultra 285K CPU installed. Let's get this thing mounted on a test bench, and then let me show you what I'm talking about with Cinebench and the BIOS updates and everything else. It's really interesting. And boom, here we go. Well, this should get the job done. All right, here we are a day later. A day later and $1 short. No, actually, the Intel Core i9 285K is a serious CPU if you need productivity, lots of cores, lots of core horsepower. It does really well with productivity software. It is a generational regression, I think, in terms of gaming. Now, Intel has made up a lot of ground, and these updates, they really do make a big difference. I mean, technically, it's true that these B860 motherboards outrun their Z890 counterparts that were launched just a few months ago, but that's owing to software updates, and those software updates are available for the Z890 motherboards as well. And it's not just updating the BIOS on these new boards. The Intel Application Optimizer, which is available from the Microsoft Store, you have to install that. You got to make sure that the management engine is actually also updated, which should be in the BIOS update, but there were some board vendors that were pushing out BIOS updates before the management engine thing was ready, and so the performance wasn't where it was supposed to be. These new chips, you got to make sure that everything is right, from the operating system to the board level to the BIOS to the software that's installed, like APO, which is technically user land software, to make sure that the CPU is operating the way that it's supposed to be. Because otherwise you leave a lot of performance on the table. So make sure you got all your updates and the utility software installed, because it's important. Let's flash BIOS. We're flashing. Tomahawk. Tomahawk, mid-roll. Here's the Core Ultra 9 doing Cinebench single thread rendering. Now with all the software and gaming updates and everything else, yeah, it's a reasonable gaming machine. If you want insanely high frame rates at 1080p, this isn't better than a 14900K on the Intel platform, but for productivity and everything else, this is pretty solid. I like that this motherboard costs a lot less. The 5 gigabit NIC works well. It's an Intel killer NIC, so you need the killer NIC software. Yes, that does work on Linux. Linux is not really much of a problem on this motherboard. It's got a lot of USB ports, but 4 of them are USB 2, 10 gigabit, and 4 2 gigabit. There's not really any 5 gigabit going on here, so it's like maybe 2 5 gigabit and 2 USB 2, but 4 USB 2 for your USB 2 peripherals. Okay, this is a pretty good loadout in terms of USB ports, connectivity, front panel I/O, without going insanely overboard. Now, for this 285K, for the max overclock, I didn't really want to push my CPU much past 325 watts, which is a little excessive, and I know the Z890 motherboards, especially that MSI Ace, can go well beyond that. But this motherboard, giving your CPU 320, 325 watts, if you are interested in overclocking, it can deliver that as long as you've got reasonable airflow over the motherboard and the VRM and everything else. For my testing, I mostly tested on this Cooler Master 280mm AIO with the Kingston Fury CU DIMMs. The CU DIMM support on this platform means that you can get better than 100 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth, which is one of the big things for this platform. Increased DDR5 memory bandwidth. And there is nothing faster than the Intel platform, well, when we're talking about 2 memory channels anyway, 4 DDR5, 4 CU DIMMs. It just doesn't translate to gaming performance. It can translate to application performance, but gaming performance, not really there. So overall, this is a pretty solid motherboard for the new Core Ultra series of CPUs. I think the i7 pairs particularly well with this motherboard. You may be able to get away with an even less expensive motherboard if you're going to go for the i5. The Core Ultra 9 would also work in this motherboard and be completely reasonable, especially if you're not going to do any insane overclocking. This would be a perfectly reasonable motherboard to carry that. MSI has revamped their BIOS and put a lot of work into that, and it shows because it's a lot easier to use. So overall, the verdict on this board, it's pretty good. I wish that the M.2 cooling was a little bit better. I wish that it had more USB Type A, like 5 gigabit and beyond ports, but those are really, really, really minor complaints. Overall, it's a pretty solid board. Wi-Fi 7 works as advertised with my Wi-Fi 7 access points because, well, I mean, not a lot to go wrong there. But, yeah. Oh, and that Wi-Fi 7 solution, that's the killer Wi-Fi solution, the 200 BNGW. Yeah, it's an Intel all-in-one solution. But Intel's solution for Wi-Fi 7 is pretty solid, 320 megahertz channel widths and all that. And this is the BGN 200 version of that. There are some implications with that you'll want to look up because it's like, is it 6 gigahertz? Is it 5 gigahertz? You should check out our videos on Wi-Fi 7 networking because there's Wi-Fi 7 and then there's Wi-Fi 7 and then there's like turbo mode Wi-Fi 7. So yeah, but this is the N200. So this is the this is the BE200 NGW. So that's the level of Wi-Fi 7 that you get. Oh, and one last thought on Intel's APO. It still really doesn't support a ton of games. If you look at APO and the APO output, this is the Application Performance Optimizer. This is Intel's answer to try to get games to behave better when we're talking about P cores and E cores and this kind of like tile-based CPU design. And it helps. It helps a lot. But from launch, the number of supported games has not really expanded dramatically. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it does make a difference. I'm Windows Level 1. I'm signing out. You can find me in the Level 1 forums. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Intel platform and the B860 Tomahawk Wi-Fi from MSI. Let's keep looking at motherboards. All right, I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.